This is Spartan 117.
Anyone hear me? Over.
Isolate that signal. Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.
Welcome back, everyone, to Finish the Fight, Halo podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Reiners.
And I'm your host, Alex Kendall.
And this is the first bonus episode I think we've done in a while, the last one being kind of our reaction and predictions to the Infinite trailer that came out this year.
Yeah, so we're starting this off, it was kind of a Patreon thing, so thanks to those who voted on what this episode's going to be, and you'll see it in the title. And Patreon members will get this first, so they're getting this in October when this is dropping. The rest of you will be getting this in November, so you get a month ahead if you're a Patreon member. Kind of thank you, obviously, for helping us out, but then also be able to vote on these topics.
Yeah, that was really cool to see, and even at one point, I don't think this was the top one. I think last minute this got to the finish line, photo finish. So we're doing this one. This one is really exciting. I know Alex and I, even occasionally on the cast, on the post show, along with us just hanging out before and after the show, we've kind of talked about this concept for a while. I know that everyone else has talked about it. There's been videos about it. So we thought we would give our opinions, kind of, out of the box thoughts of what a Halo, what should some of the next Halo spin-off games be after Infinite? Because as of right now, the only thing we know for sure that's coming out is Infinite next year. Before we even get into that, what we consider kind of a spin-off game is not the Master Chief story. So we have 1, 2, and 3, and then we have 4, 5 Guardians, and then Infinite. So all the games that have kind of been outside of that realm that we consider spin-offs. So let's start with all the spin-off games that they have so far. So within the Bungie era, we've had Halo Wars, which came out in 2009. We had Halo 3 ODST, which also came out in 2009, and then Halo Reach, which came out in 2010. Now, within the 343 era, we have Halo Spartan Ops, which came out in 2012, which I consider a spin-off game because it was kind of that weekly you get a new mission kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing within the core realm of it. It's something that takes the property in what the core game is not based on. So that's your spin-off.
Yeah, and then we also have Halo Spartan Assault, which came out in 2013, Halo Spartan Strike, which came out in 2015, Halo Wars 2 that came out in 2017, and Halo Fireteam Raven, which came out in 2018.
Now, going back to the physical realm of whatever you want to call that, we had actual physical tabletop games. So you had, obviously, the interactive strategy game, which we just covered. You've got Halo Risk, and then Halo Wars Risk. So you had a couple different versions of that. Halo Monopoly.
Yeah.
You had also Halo Fleet Battles, which we talked about a little bit as well, which is kind of like Star Wars Armada in a way, and a couple other little...
Yeah, Ground Command. Ground Command.
Halo Ground Command.
Same almost style as Fleet Battles, but just on the ground.
But on the ground. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And a couple other little properties in between there that I'm assuming that
there's 2 card games, I think, out there as well, kind of like Exploding Kittens.
Yeah.
Along those lines. And then there's also Action Clicks.
Yeah, so it kind of lent itself out whenever, because we talked about this, we're talking about Bungie, with a lot of the games, they did really well with pushing the IP and really getting it out there and getting it to multiple outlets. So there's plenty of that stuff out there. Another cool thing that they've done is thrown in some cameos. So in Dead or Alive 4, you've got Spartan 458, which is a special Spartan that they made for the game. They originally asked for Master Chief, but they were like, we're not giving you that. But we'll give you this random Spartan we'll make up for you. Throwing some backstory into the game. Perfect. So you had that. Then another fighting game, you had Killer Instinct on their Season 3. You could get the Arbiter. Yep. And punchy, kick with him.
And then also, and I remember actually, I was really excited for this when it came out, and I never even played it, was Forza Horizon 4 when you had the Warthog and the Master Chief in the game.
Yeah, and I think with all 3 of those, they had obviously a custom level for that character that was Halo-based, whether it's on a space station or I know in Forza, you could see the Halo on the horizon. Kind of cool.
And then, so now let's move on to canceled spin-offs, because this is, and these are only the ones that we have officially known about. I guarantee there's a laundry list of some things that they maybe even started production on, but then,
it's kind of like you start your spitball, you do like your first episode, your pilot, and if it gets knocked down, you're like...
Concept art, even. So we had, within the Bungie era, we had the Halo MMO, and we'll talk a little bit about that on the Halo Wars episode, But that was basically just an MMO. And I guess a lot of elements from that later spilled onto future MMO titles. You also had Halo Chronicles, which was the Wingnut Interactive studio from Peter Jackson when he was working with Bungie. And then you had Halo DS, which is still up to debate whether or not that was a giant hoax or not. But we'll cover we'll do a complete episode on all these canceled Halo projects eventually. So also within the 343 era, you had the Halo Mega Bloks game, and then you had the Halo Online game, which became El Dorito eventually.
And so now on to what our spinoffs would be. These would obviously go full production. They'd make it way past their bestsellers, outselling Halo 3 is the biggest thing, because that's really what's important here. So yeah, so to start it, Jesse, what would you say? And we haven't really talked about this yet. We wanted to make sure that we both kind of went in blind, so we can really kind of critique and say how shitty the other person's idea is, or maybe good. So we'll start, Jesse. What would be your first kind of idea?
So just a quick little backstory to where I got this idea is I have an ex-coworker right now who's a developer who's working on a top-down RPG like in vein of Pokemon, and I thought that was really cool. And granted, I'm not saying so much that these need to be the next spin-offs as to where I think these spin-offs would be cool. I just want to put that out there. I'm not...
Yeah. We're not trying to say, like, this comes out after Infinite. This is just what weird kind of thing would we want to see Halo IP in?
Yeah. So for me, I thought to myself, we haven't really dived into the Forerunners yet, but I think it should be done a little differently. So I thought to myself, like, a Forerunner top-down RPG game in vein of those very early Pokemon games. Because to think about it, that's... versus everything now, those are way easier to develop. So for me, I thought this game would be in vein of those.
So what would you do?
So glad you asked. So the setting would be kind of the pre-Forerunner Flood War, but shortly after the Forerunner Human War. And as a Forerunner soldier, you have to deal with the negative mental impact of what the Forerunners did to humanity following the war whenever they set them back centuries of their evolution, basically made them caveman again. So on top of that, you start to discover signs of the upcoming war with the Flood, and eventually in the game, and this is just my weird fantasy of like, this could happen, this would be cool. It's like you have to start fighting the Flood, and eventually maybe even see the beginnings of the grave mine for that war, or like the proto grave mine, something along those lines. I thought it would be kind of cool.
Who's your starter?
As I said, just a Forerunner soldier.
That's who you're picking? You're not gonna pick Charmander?
But yeah, so for me, I wanted to throw some maybe unique elements into this game that would set them off differently from anything else that we've seen.
Okay, so you're saying something, okay, Pokemon-esque, you're meaning kind of just the top-down element of it, nothing else in Pokemon?
No, still the open world aspect.
So you're more like
it.
Link's Awakening.
Okay, that's a better comparison. That's a way better comparison. So I just thought of that because when I think of those top-down games, Pokemon comes to mind.
So you're thinking like kind of like an indie, possibly 8-bit, possibly 3D, smaller
more
models.
8-bit-ish,
Okay.
yeah, like that. But yeah, so one thing you would do is you would find clues throughout the game, discovering the horrors of the precursor Forerunner War. Along with, you have small but frequent side missions. You also have a chance to see, as I said, the grave mine during the war, even potentially battle it. And maybe the game would end with you seeing the firing of the Halo rings.
Okay, I definitely like that because I think the art style can really be done any way you want it. And like you said, not necessarily that the game would be too simplistic, but I think if you focus more, like you said, on the story and on a lot of the collectibles, probably of like, you can kind of collect through and see what's been happening and all those things. That sounds pretty cool.
Again, it's not so much of like, say if these just popped up out of nowhere. This would pique my interest. It would be so different, and 343 has been doing a lot of different things with their spin-off, so I thought, why not have something kind of crazy like that?
Well, even just as a marketing ploy, have you seen the KFC dating sim?
Yes, I did.
So stuff like that. Like if you guys haven't seen it, it's a Colonel Sanders dating sim, similar to like the Hatful Boyfriend or that game where you date a tank. Plenty of those. But they spoof it. But it was just a marketing ploy. It's free. And it just really pushed KFC. So you could even do something like that with Halo where this game just comes out.
Yeah. Like, again, we want to emphasize this isn't like us being super serious about like, this needs to happen. Like, this would just pique my interest. I would see that even if it was a fan-made one, I'd be all over it.
I think it'll be cool. And I think it's definitely plausible. and you can definitely reskin things and just kind of change up the text of what's been said and what's kind of going on. That's cool.
Yeah, because a lot of indie games with that kind of style do well because they're telling a very unique and interesting story.
And it hits on, and the thing is too with those, if you can really interest people in continuing what the story is and the gameplay element is there. So I guess what would be your gameplay element?
See, I haven't thought that far about it. There would be some battle, but I want to rely.
So there's no
more.
game to your game.
No. So I'm saying I want there to be some battling, but for the most part, it's about discovery and searching this open wherever. Maybe you're on a ring, maybe you're on just a Forerunner world. I want that more, like just the open world discovery thing and searching for things.
Okay. I can dig that.
Yeah. So what about you? What's first on your list, Alex?
First on my list would be kind of taking, obviously there's plenty of fans who have asked for horror flood games. Plenty of it out there.
Yeah.
One of my biggest things though, and a lot of mine are kind of not like harvesting ideas from other games, and my first would be Left 4 Dead, like a Killing Floor style.
Yeah.
So somewhat wave-based, somewhat on rails to kind of get to the end of where you're going. And with Left 4 Dead, it really allows it to be open with Flood, because you can kind of have them take the same idea and shape as some of the already Left 4 Dead forms. So like your boomer could be kind of like your carrier pods, stuff like that kind of, like infect you, gross you out, possibly damage you. And then different combat forms you can kind of throw into those routes. And then even if you wanted to, change up the lore a little bit and throw in...
Oh, you don't do that.
We're definitely doing that. I'm doing that for all of these, by the way. You throw stuff in that, which would be really cool.
Yeah.
And I think having various campaigns as you go through for different characters. So like your 4 characters, I would say, would be Civilian, Marine, ODST, and then a 4th one would possibly be either like medic or something along those lines, or another civilian that kind of worked with them, or even like shrink it down to all kind of civilians in different work things. The same way that you found like your 4 characters in Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2. So I would love stuff like that, and then everyone would start with probably just a pistol. And as you go through, do your pickups.
I think someone actually did a mod of Left 4 Dead where it is Halo-esque.
Yeah.
So they just reskin it.
Yeah, you just reskin it. But this would have a little bit different. Like you'd obviously want, like, or even escaping the Covenant. Stuff like that, like having like old Mombasa, new Mombasa stuff, seeing them do that, seeing the Battle of Cleveland, all those type of things would just be kind of cool to see it happen. And then eventually either keep the game all Flood or have in those elements of... Covenant battle, things like that.
Yeah, like you see some Covenant, but then eventually it's just all hands on deck for trying to get the fuck out and kill as many Flood as humanly possible.
Yeah, and that would probably be down to where you're talking about Killing Floor, which would just be like your wave-based, purchase weapons and stuff at the end of each round and just try and survive. Pretty simple games to make, and it's basically for both these a reskin, an advanced reskin. Like you'd obviously change the weapons out, you would change up your settings and things like that, but it would still keep those game mechanics.
Yeah, I would play that for sure because it's kind of just like Call of Duty Zombies-esque. It's just run and shoot.
Yeah, and what's great about those is that you can pick them up with a friend, you can play them solo, but the replay value is amazing because you can just kind of keep playing through the campaigns, or with Killing Floor, it's just how long can we survive on these different levels.
It's basically like a party game.
Yeah.
Those games, like, a lot of zombie games like that are the perfect party games.
Yeah, like you'll have a little bit of lore, but most of it would just be kind of in the environment around you. Like it would be taking place, in this on Earth or on, Harvest, or on one of these planets where you've had either a human Covenant conflict or possibly on a ring structure or just kind of wherever you want to take it. You can kind of make that however it needs to be. Just as like you continued along.
Yeah, I would definitely play that, and I think the replayability value there, as you said, is very, very high.
Yeah, it'd be fun. I just love that type of stuff.
Yeah. So this is one that I actually threw out, I think, in one of our post-show episodes. You didn't like it, but I threw it in here anyways, because screw it. A Contact Harvest DLC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because, I said, not that much happened, but I think if you got
Nothing happened, but yeah, continue.
a DLC out of this, then I think it would be doable.
All right, so what is it? Where are we applying this DLC? What game are we going on with this?
It's a DLC of something. I don't know. I don't know what they have planned. This is one of the official. This will be a DLC for one of the official spinoffs. It'll be a first person shooter.
Hold on. So you're making DLC for a game that's not even made.
Yeah.
So hopefully someone picks up this DLC for an engine you have no idea where it goes.
I am wishful thinking.
Okay.
Okay, let's say it's a DLC for Infinite. How about that? So Infinite's, the furthest from this timeline right now. So let's go back to, the beginning of the Human Covenant War, because it's kind of fresh on our minds. So basically, we had this concept of, Halo Reach from the beginning. We knew the end. We could, have that same vibe going on with Harvest. But granted, the first Harvest invasion was small, and it was only a few battles, but all of these could be brought to the FPS genre. The DLC could be anywhere from 4 to 6 hours long, even though I think 6 would...
6 hours of
I don't know.
Harvest?
Yeah, I'd do it.
Ugh.
I would absolutely do it.
Also, that's a long DLC.
I mean, who knows how generous Microsoft is going to be in the coming years.
Hopefully a lot more generous than making us play 6 hours of Harvest. So was it going to be 4.5 hours of diplomacy and then an hour and a half of maybe combat?
So basically just the handful of skirmishes and missions you have. So you would be playing as Johnson, working alongside Byrne to face the oncoming threat of the Covenant and even fighting them within a few battles. So throughout the game, you can kind of see the tragedy of Harvest whenever it first happened, and also face the fact that you didn't save everyone. Because, at the end of the book, they're like, we didn't save everyone. Like, well, we saved people in general, so that's better than nothing. So some unique elements I did want to throw in here is, because since there's a small amount of militia, like, let's say that most of the NPCs can't actually be killed, but just the AIs are pretty good about taking cover and being shitty and just not fighting that much. If you think about it, the militia did do a good amount in that game, but not so much that it put them in that much harm's way, and they didn't lose that many throughout the book.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'll give you that. It was 2 battles. So.
And so, throughout the book, a lot of other things happen. They talk about the ball they go to, Trebuchet, all that things. So I would want terminals in there. So you access them, and it's kind of Johnson having these, it's like a terminal for like Johnson's backstory, his flashbacks, going and see his aunt who's dead, Operation Trebuchet, all those things. That way you can access them. So you get all these, you get the story of the book, but you don't have to play a mission where you just walk around this ball, or play a mission where you walk into and find your grandma dead and then sit there for an hour and wait for the people to come in.
All right. If you're not doing that, I want to know where this 4 to 6 hours is coming from. This would be like an hour.
Okay. How about this? 2 hours. 2 hours. Give me 2 hours. Give me 2 hours. It will be 500 Microsoft points.
Yeah, that exists still.
Yeah, and so I would, and this was kind of my last spitball idea of like one thing they could have is, you have these, you do have cutscenes like Halo 2 where you're seeing the Covenant side of things, and maybe even one of the last missions, you play a very short mission as Tartarus, and it's like a boss battle. He fights and defeats Maccabeus and becomes chieftain of the Brutes. So even like a mini boss battle within the game itself.
Okay.
Let me just tell you guys right now, I know nothing about writing games, so don't blame me for this as much as Alex is right now.
No. Please. Let the comments know.
My awful ideas.
This man wanting 6 hours of one of the most boring books in the series.
I liked the book, and I liked the story itself. I think I want some kind of feeling like that came from Reach, like that sadder Halo story that came just every time you took a step forward, it was 3 steps backward. But overall, that's my kind of idea of a Harvest game. I know a lot of people do want a Harvest game, and we talked about it as well, that there's this idea that if they do add some more information in there, people will be upset about retconning the lore, as they did with Halo Reach, because I actually discovered a thread recently. It's not a recent thread, but there's a long thread on Waypoint about people claiming and like not believing that Halo Reach is canon. They're like,
who cares?
They're like, this is not a canon game, like once and for all.
Just play the game.
And they even said supposedly Bungie did, but they provided no sources, so...
Whatever. Either way, just play the game.
Just play the game.
If you want it in the story, have it in the story. I mean... You could have it where Star Wars just retconned 300 books and was like, that's not part of it anymore.
20 years.
Yeah, that's not part of it. You could have that. No,
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to a Q&A on this now. I'm giving you these Q&As.
Okay, yeah.
First person, third person.
First person, yeah.
Or second person.
First person.
Full frontal view. That's all you get.
No, first person shooter.
First person. So it's just going to be Halo.
Yeah, I never said that this one was out of the realm of being like off the rails, but I think just the concept itself is a little different because we haven't gotten any FPS DLCs like ODST was supposed to be. So, not every game that I suggest is...
No, no. Here's the thing. And I'm not like knocking this completely. I think it can be a thing. I just want you to cover your bases.
I'm covering my bases.
So,
thank you.
So you want it strictly Halo, like as the game is now. So you don't want like any RPG elements to it, to discovering things, or you want to just kind of be on rails like a Halo game?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe even do what Infinite is rumored to do, some open world levels, since it's my theoretical Infinite DLC.
I gotcha. It'd be interesting. I mean, I would love to see if, and this is not just to hijack your idea a little bit, I'd love to see maybe a little bit more of that storytelling RPG or ARPG element of it, where you do get to know like the militia members, burn better, maybe even like get a little bit more into the politics of it. Mm-hmm. I think that would just be interesting because, like you said, if you want to kind of pull on those heartstrings, kind of like what Reach did, you got to know the Spartans.
Yeah.
So I think if there was a little bit more element to that, maybe you kind of walk through a camp, or like you guys are setting up the bags, or maybe whenever you're taking the civilians out of there, maybe you have like little convos just to kind of have that, just to
slow it down.
Yeah, slow it down.
Slow it down. Okay, yeah.
I would say that instead of having a fast-paced game like Halo, it's like shoot, push a button, shoot, go up there type thing. I think it's slowed down a little bit, and you get to know the characters.
So it's like shoot, but also have equal amount of parts of just intel.
Yeah, and it may be that like your save points is like Johnson sleeping. Mm-hmm. So then you get the flashback of his like frozen aunt, and you get the flashback of Trebuchet.
Or even like you only get those if you find those terminals in between.
Yeah.
So it's like you find that terminal, and then when you go to sleep, you get those.
Yeah,
memories.
you have to do an unlockable.
Yeah,
something for that. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So what about you? What's next on your list?
One thing I would like to see that it takes it fully away from what Halo is an exploration of the universe, of all the universe, of the various universes that are around, and the various planets and homeworlds. So kind of like what No Man's Sky does. I don't know if you're familiar with.
I know about the initial launch. I don't know about everything that's happened since then and how they've kind of tried to bring it back to life.
There's stuff, I haven't played it since then, but yeah, it's basically exploring planets, seeing the flora and the fauna, and kind of building bases, things like that. So you can give or take those elements, but I think it'd be really cool to be able to travel celestially to these different planets, either become friends or enemies with kind of who's there, or just have it be a really cool gallery of going through various planets and seeing what's going on and seeing like what the Ungoi homeworld is like and doing those type of things.
So I'm looking at this as kind of like, for me, it would just be like something available that you can download like straight from 343, and it's like, are you talking so much exploration or just discovery? Like, is there a gameplay to it, but it's more in the sense of discovery, or?
I think it would depend on how you'd want to take it. If you can either have it to where, which would be kind of cool, you are setting up the Covenant and you've discovered these worlds. So you're doing the exploration of what these home worlds or what these satellite worlds would be, and either conquer them, bring them into the Covenant kind of peacefully, like with an agreement, or just glass a planet.
So kind of like a tactical game, like more decision maker, or am I a little far off?
It's just kind of open.
Okay,
so I would say
okay.
So there's two options. You get more tactical like that, or you just have it be more exploratory.
Okay.
And you can kind of just interact with people, and you are, depending on how you wanted to say it, would be nowhere near what lore would be, but you could just be a traveler who has no beef between any of them. So you can kind of just go through, trade, build up bases, stuff like that, or just explore and collect things from these worlds that can unlock more lore into those peoples and those aliens.
Yeah, I'd say so. And definitely, I guarantee right now someone would be like, I'd say for it to be the most open, and if you wanted to be faithful to the lore, it would have to be post-Human Covenant War. Because a traveler can't just show up from Earth and then go to, Harvest and then go to St. Helios and not get fucked up by somebody.
Or even be a forerunner, and they're going through their own slip world thing that kind of goes through.
Being like almost like a fly on the wall,
Yeah.
or being like in disguise or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that because there are so many, and I guess in retrospect, I didn't dive too far from FPSs with my list, but there are a lot of game genres that can be done even within the Halo realm that I think I think you could take your idea and lore nerds would have a great time with it. If you just pack it with as much information as possible with things that people do know and some new things.
And you could even do it to where it's like, okay, view Harvest before the war. Mm-hmm. Like not obviously as like a glass planet, but like view Harvest as it was, as like this bastion of like waving grain and like just like have a really beautiful landscape to see all these places, or like really gritty, or methane infused, like just stuff like that.
Like Vallejo and whatnot.
Yeah, like seeing those places and just seeing like how much art rendering you can really do with it.
I would be interested in things like going to High Charity as well.
Yeah, High Charity, or even going to like a Merc world where it's just all rebels that own this refinery world.
Yeah,
and just going and seeing like how these people live and
the asteroid.
Yeah, like the asteroid
things
belt
like
and stuff
that,
like that.
yeah.
I think it would be cool to not only have like be able to visualize it from either reading it or like hearing about it in lore or kind of seeing a bit in a game, but really getting nice, beautiful detail in there. Maybe interaction with people. Maybe it's like I said, just kind of a fly on the wall, seeing how things happen, just to get like a really beautiful kind of chill game.
I would say, kind of like what you did with my last thing, I'm going to bounce off your idea a little bit, is almost like if you took the lore aspect of Outpost Discovery and made it a game. Like, I think that would be really cool.
I think it'd be amazing. And like you could see Spartans training back on Reach if you want. Like go back, depending on, obviously how you took the game.
It's not only you're going anywhere as well, or along with going to any place at any time.
Yeah, kind of like the peak time of what was happening. Like maybe you can kind of do a bit of time travel with it to kind of see. Obviously, like all this would put an amazing amount of game resources in that would take way too much time.
So it's basically like Doctor Who meets Halo.
Yeah, so it's like you're the Forerunner Doctor. Yeah. And you can kind of like pick up every language, and you can kind of like be seen how you want to be seen maybe.
Yeah.
And kind of interact. I think that would be cool. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, because that's so much not about like just the gameplay itself, or maybe it is a little bit, but it's just about the discovery.
Yeah, it would just be about the discovery. And it's just seeing how these worlds are built, how people and creatures interact, what's the flora and fauna for those, and just kind of seeing, I guess, with all lore compiled together, what an artist's rendition of these places could be.
And I was even thinking something we didn't mention is just seeing the effects of a flood infection on a world, or, if a world was cleared from a flood infection, how does that world come back then after like the firing of a Halo rings?
Yeah, I mean, that would actually be cool too. Like time-lapse stuff is like, how does the planet, reintroduce itself to life?
Yeah. So now back to the more crazy FPS route that I've been going with all these. And this is one that
the crazy route. The really crazy, pretty traditional, exact same type of thing.
I meant crazy compared to your nice, kind of actually cool ideas.
My beautiful kind of wandering.
Yeah, I want to see the Insurrectionist War played out in a game, because we never really see that. We've only ever seen rebels in wars, in the skirmish modes, and they're mentioned here and there. Like they're mentioned in Reach because you start out thinking you're going to fight them, which I was kind of like, oh, this is going to be cool. We're going to fight some rebels. We didn't. It was the Covenant, but I would love to see that. So in this game, you would see that the Insurrectionist War was the reason for the Orion and Spartan programs. So for me, I really want to see kind of these grittier things that we've learned about with insurrections. Like say in Halo Contact Harvest, whenever Burn is just smashing legs with his boots and whatnot, and seeing all these terrorist attacks. Like I think it would be cool to kind of see like a more grounded version of Halo. Like see like humans killing humans, like this crazy shit that they're doing to each other. For me, some unique elements I thought could be in this game was you would invade rebel units and facilities to weaken their efforts against the UNSC. Along with throughout the game, you could also start questioning your own actions with harsh interrogation methods against like the rebels. Because I'm sure there was one guy there who saw Burn destroying this man's legs, and they're probably like, we probably shouldn't. And the morality of that is also brought up in other books, along with you could, have missions where you fight alongside Johnson and Byrne during a few of their missions, maybe even do one with Trebuchet. And then also with Project Orion, you could, again, I like the whole finding files or terminals. You find hidden files and you learn more about Orion. So it's just like you're getting little clips and snippets here and there, maybe even piece that Johnson himself was part of Orion and possibly even Byrne.
I like that. And see, it's funny enough. I have an exact game that I was thinking about, the opposite of that.
Okay. Oh, so you are the insurrection.
You are the insurrection,
Ooh.
and you see from their point of view. Every war and every history has the two sides to it, obviously. And there's always, on either side, there's the good guy, it's whoever's telling the story, and the bad guy is the loser.
History is written by the winners.
Yeah, that's what it is. So I would love to see it, and it would definitely be an RPG element, kind of like Days Gone that just came out, which is, it's based on zombies, but it's kind of like you have to, get supplies where you can.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're on a insurrectionist world or something that's being starved out, like you have minimal supplies. Like you don't have, obviously, as we've read and heard, the top of the line weaponry. You don't have top line machinery. You make do with what you have.
Yeah.
So I think going through that, seeing who the rebel leaders are, what rebels deal with what, and who can, and then eventually, obviously, dealing with the UNSC and seeing from their point of view of like, we're just trying to live. Like, we just don't want the oppression of this.
Yeah.
But you send in this military force and eventually evolve these soldiers that are almost unstoppable to come kill us.
Yeah, I would like that, but in the sense of like maybe you are a soldier who thinks this is an innocent cause, like with my idea, and you start to kind of question the morality of it. Like, should we be bombing cafes? Like all this stuff.
And it could even go that the game is both. You play on either side. Like you flip back and forth. You play as like a UNSC soldier, and then you also play as like a mid-level insurrectionist. So you kind of see from either side what your causes are doing.
Yeah, I definitely think that there was a lot that went on with the Civil War within humanity that is just criminally overlooked, even, with casual players. Like they know about some of it, like, oh yeah, there was a Civil War, it's not really a thing anymore. But I think like a lot happened in there that really would make people like cringe, and it said grounding it, and cringe as in like the way that you look at like a car accident, But
The use of the word cringe 10 years ago.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But it's just this idea. I think that would be one of the more grounded Halo games, and I hate to say this, and someone's gonna get upset, but almost like it has that Call of Duty feel.
Well, it has like the bloody realism of it. Because with Halo, you're just like, shoot, shoot, shoot. They're bad guys. Kill them.
They're aliens.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel bad about this whatsoever.
Yeah, and you don't feel any of that really until you get to like kind of, I guess you kind of feel it when you play as the Arbiter, but then you're still killing Covenant at the same time.
Nah, I'd say I never really felt that, because it's like you're
That's
killing
what I mean.
non-humans.
You're still just killing non-human with that.
Yeah.
And it's not till I guess even in 5, I guess you can have a little bit of it, but I don't know.
Hey, well, that's the thing, and this isn't a complaint about Halo, but it's out there. It's a sci-fi shooter.
Yeah, it's what it was meant to be. It wasn't meant to kind of really make you think hard about your actions. You're a super soldier that's doing what super soldiers do best.
Yeah, and that's why we have the books to kind of show this ugly side of this war. But I think if you really saw it firsthand, it's that story is being unfolded to you and you play along to it. I think a lot more people would appreciate everything that happened within the Cold Protocol. There's this bombing that happens, and it goes into pretty good detail about like kind of coming out of shock, from like an explosion and looking around and seeing people are dead or some bodies are moving or some guys are trying to get up from it. Like visual stuff like that, if you actually see, like I think it would resonate really well with Halo fans.
Oh, I mean, have you watched Band of Brothers? I mean, look at that type of stuff. Like it's expertly shot to show like the horrors of war and what actually goes on. That it's not just like Allies or Axis are winning this thing. It's like these are lives being traded.
Or like Saving Private Ryan. Like you've had guys that were on the beach that day said that's the most accurate representation they've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because it was, how many bodies can we throw out here until we go through?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And so, yeah, you're right. I would love to see a game, whether it's both sides in the same game, kind of that playing back and forth, and maybe, I don't know, a cliche meeting up or they don't meet up or whatever, or just having, either game would be pretty cool.
Yeah, or even like not so much switching back and forth, but the first half of the game, like they did that with the Cybertron games. So the first half be Decepticons, second half be the Autobots. Don't give me that look. I love those.
I love that
I love
this
those
is your
fucking
reference game.
games. I love those fucking games. And Derek said he liked them too. Damn it! So I don't want to hear any more about it.
You know what's like Halo? What's like bloody gritty war? Transformers.
I meant that aspect of the first half.
I know
of
what you're
this.
talking about. Yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, overall, I do like that idea. I think this could be one of the more grittier games that we would get if that were to ever happen.
Yeah, because you could see more hand-to-hand combat. You could see just more war happen.
Guerrilla tactics.
Yeah, guerrilla tactics, more just brutality than just kind of shooting some purple, bluish blood people.
Yeah, with squeaky voices, and you just move on instead. Like, you know, you have almost those quick time actions of having to look someone in the eye before you sink a knife into them or something like that.
Yeah, stuff like that. Because we were talking with Arroyo, and you know, he was talking about that they originally had in stuff to like blow arms off and like spear guys, you know, against a rock, like when they were putting the brutes in. But obviously that just wasn't Halo.
Yeah.
So I think we'd be getting a little bit of that aspect built into this.
Well, remember that Eric even said that he pitched an idea for Halo to go back to the like the actual Spartan times, like in Greece. So like, granted, I don't know if I exactly like that idea, but just that idea of you can see that brutality. Like when you stab another human or you shoot them, blood comes out.
Yeah, that there's actual consequences than just like respawning.
Yeah. So what about you? What's next on your list?
So taking it back again from there and exploring, I think, a lot more of the lore and the world building would be to take us back to 2011 time.
Okay.
When we had League of Legends and Heroes of the Storm coming out and Dota 2. So having a MOBA. With this, you'd still have probably like 5v5, 3v3, you know, whatever action going on. Are you familiar with these games? Did you play League?
Vaguely. I never played League.
Okay.
I've you know, seen my friends sit there and play them while we hang out. Like,
okay, that's fine. So for those of you who don't know of these games, it's basically team versus team game. It's typically trying to destroy the other's base. And
sounds like a goddamn RTS.
similar to that. So it takes the ideas of that, but it's all live. You level up your character as you either kill mobs, which is kind of like the enemies on the map, or you completing objectives in a way, I guess you would say, more of Heroes of the Storm style. So I would love this because you could have in so many UNSC, so many different Covenant characters, and then even bring in some Forerunner or Promethean characters that you want as your main character.
Would it kind of be like what they do in Wars and you have like your heroes? Or
Yes.
I think I'm wrong with heroes, but yeah, you have like Captain Cutter and all those other characters.
Exactly.
Like the Arbiter.
And you would just play that character.
Okay.
And that character, you'd start at level 1, and like in League, you get to level 18, if I'm correct. I haven't played that in so long. And then in Here's the Storm, you get to like level 5 or 6. Like, and each time you level up, your skill tree goes up, and you, in League specifically, you buy items. And those items either increase like your damage, your attack speed, your defense, your resistance, your speed, all those type of things. And so you can kind of have that element, whether it's dumbed down a little bit kind of with Heroes of the Storm, which is Blizzard's. So you're getting like World of Warcraft, Diablo, you know, StarCraft, those type of characters in there.
Yeah.
So you'd get all these different characters that have their own abilities that you'd unlock, but also you can equip weapons, you can, you know, possibly get vehicles or other things to kind of help you out.
Yeah.
Which would be kind of cool.
Yeah. I can't comment too much on this just because I've never actually sat down and played those games. I have so many friends that to this day play them like religiously. That tournament happened here just recently in St. Louis with that, correct?
Yeah. So yeah, it was the spring tournament.
Yeah, recent enough, but I wouldn't be against that idea. It would be different.
Yeah,
Change of pace.
Well, and what I would love too is you can bring in characters like Yep and all these other characters that you know that would be like more of a support role, or you'd get more of like these tanky characters, or like because you get like a hunter or like Tartarus or someone as like a character with their abilities going against people they may never have ever fought. So obviously, lore in that realm way out the window.
Yeah.
But as far as the lore of who the character is and the relationship with characters within the universe would be written.
So it's like the Halo Wars lore, or like the Halo Wars in the sense that online there's no lore.
Yeah. So there wouldn't be any lore for like if the Arbiter was fighting this person they've never talked to, or
they were fighting a Forerunner.
Exactly, something like that. But they would all be in there within the family of Halo.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that idea. It would be, again, that's also a change of pace just because Halo has branched out on genres officially with RTS, with top-down shooters, with the arcade games, but, we haven't seen anything that truly at the end of the day, other mainly than wars involving just a gun and shooting, pointing and shooting. Even then with wars, it's the same thing.
Yeah, so it would be interesting how they would do it, and it would probably be much more on the lines of how Heroes of the Storm does it, because those were already established characters who you had to be like, oh, what are their major perks that they did? Whereas with League, you built these characters and you made them to kind of fit your game. All of Heroes of the Storm are pulled from their IP. So, whether it's an Overwatch character or whether it's a character in Diablo, it pulls them into the game, and they get 4 abilities, I think, also like with an auto attack to kind of have within that.
Yeah, I definitely would play that.
Yeah.
So now I think you'll like this. There's already kind of a mod for this. There's Sins of the Prophets, which is a mod of Sins of the Solar Empire. But I think that we should get a space RTS because the lead concept designer at Creative Assembly did make concept art to pitch to Microsoft a Halo Wars 3. So initially, it was going to be all space battles. So I'm not against that idea. I think that would be really cool. This is more of like my honorable mentions list, but I like the idea of having a space RTS. And maybe wrapping up the trilogy for the Wars games.
Okay. I mean, it's definitely plausible, in my opinion, and it's just not a game that I enjoy. There are games out there that do that really well.
Well, what if they do like they actually
do?
What if they break it down to here's a PC version optimized for PC, and then we have the console version?
I think even beyond that, like space is interesting because I think it's more so that space is kind of like, in my opinion, water levels. It's kind of like it's a level in there that can be done really well, but there's so many ones that have been done so poorly. So I think it's definitely plausible, and I think you'd still have to figure out how ships would be handled, because obviously we're still seeing that for the most part Covenant ships are still out handling UNSC stuff.
Well, something that I had an idea is that typically it would, for the most part, and I think like not a lot of people like this, but you fight losing battles.
Okay.
You fight a lot of losing battles, or when you do win, it's because you outnumber them 5-1. Things like that. I know that Sins of the Prophets does pretty well. A lot of people play that. And granted, I know we talked about this, I think, back in episode number 2, but I've watched some gameplay of it, and it does look very complex, but in the sense that people are having like 2-hour campaigns.
Yeah, that there's a lot that goes into it. I think piggybacking off your idea a little bit, I would also love a space battle game where each person pilots their own ship.
Okay. Is it just one-on-one, or are they fighting alongside?
No, it would be like... you could have 100 people in the game.
Okay.
And you would have your own ship, and then you could like squadron up with people and be like, okay, we're gonna go take out that ship over there.
Are we talking they just have like Pelicans or Hornets, or do they have like Pillar of Autumn?
Yeah. They're
like
controlling the fleet. Like they have something with Mac cannons, and like it'd be big ship battles that your NPCs you could send out as like abilities. That would be like, sending out Pelicans for certain drop missions to either pull supplies from the planet or something. Various things along those lines.
Yeah, I definitely think that I'm all for it. I think it would be interesting. I'm trying to branch out of playing less FPSs because that's my bread and butter, and trying to do a little more different things. I think the only RTS I've ever played was Halo Wars, and that's because it had a Halo sticker slapped on it. So I always like the idea of if a Halo War or if a Halo game is different than the norm, then I'm going to check it out. And that's one reason why I would love to see a space battle Halo game, but it's hard for me to want to do that or just play a space battle game in general without Halo being on it.
I can understand that, and I think that's what really helps drive some of these games is having that IP. I think you need to branch out a little bit.
Of course,
play some games.
But I mean, at the end of the day, look at what other Call of Duty games are there than FPSs. Granted, that's a very odd example, but not a lot of games are, from what I know, like top-level games are branching out from one or two genres.
Well, I guess it depends. I mean, you picked a specifically war game that now I guess has a story to it. And you do have your spinoffs like zombies and the battle royale and other things they do with Call of Duty. So you do have those options with that. But I understand what you're saying is like they're not. I don't say they're not innovating outside of what they do, but they are the top-selling title of all time.
Yeah, that's why I said it was kind of a bad example. But I'm trying to think of a video game franchise that really goes off the rails with their genres.
Nintendo.
Yeah, okay. Because
I would say
Zelda,
Nintendo entirely.
because Zelda came to mind, and then I instantly thought, well, Mario as well. So yeah, Nintendo IPs are just out there.
Yeah, because they do an interest within their game. They jump out of it. Like with Donkey Kong, you had your staples for like the Super Nintendo, with Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3. And then even like on GameCube, you had the one where you had bongo drums to run. And like they had various gimmicks, and they're very gimmicky with them. But then you also had staple games that everyone knows, like Super Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, Mario Party,
Super Mario World.
Yeah, that brings in these IPs from all over and kind of puts them in to this game where they never would be in the same universe type thing.
Yeah. Okay, I get that.
Yeah. I think they do that really well, and it definitely helps too when your game is more cartoon than it is real life.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that one.
Because I think that's really where you can branch out and be kind of like, well, just throw them in there because they're cool.
It's fucking Mario. He doesn't.
Yeah, it's Mario.
He belongs anywhere.
Yeah, and you can kind of put him wherever, and so you're seeing more games branch out and do some cool stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. It's tough when you're already the number one seller on various consoles.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, I guess that can almost be said with Halo. I mean, granted, 343 kind of going up shit creek. They just got their paddle, so hopefully they can make it up there after Halo 5. But I think that if Infinite is successful, I think fans will be a lot more open to these spin-off games because, say, like, I like Spartan Assault. I haven't played Strike, but I genuinely like Spartan Assault. I know some people have said some good things about Fireteam Raven. I think it's just a matter of being able to pull off these spin-offs outside of your bread and butter genre well.
No, it's tough. I mean, there's games that can do it, and there's games that totally flop it. But I think for the most part, I guess what would be, besides Halo, what's kind of your favorite game or game genre?
I'd say the Zelda games are up there with me. I love the Zelda games, and they've gone from top down to open world to stuff like that. And then also the Arkham games as well. I love the Arkham games. But for the most part, I mean, again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Kind of that more open-esque world kind of play, third person. So it's hard for me to say. I mean, as a franchise as a whole, like those stick out for me.
And that makes sense. I mean, those were games that either really pushed what they were trying to do. Like whenever Arkham Asylum came out, I mean, that was a game that just no one asked for, but people were like, oh, I do want this.
Yeah, the second they got it, they're like, thank God I got this.
I do love this beat 'em up engine because it is good. And then you had Spider-Man kind of piggyback on that. You had the Lord of the Rings piggyback on that as well, having that same kind of engine going through it. So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely plausible. And I mean, I think there's plenty of room for fan-made games like that. I kind of talked to you too about Halo Mythic.
Yeah.
Because one game that I always try and get into, and the group always falls, but I love it so much, is like D&D, Pathfinder, stuff like that. And I would love to see taking the idea of like Halo Mythic and putting it into video game form. And one game that did that really well was Divinity Original Sin and then Divinity 2, which are basically D&D style games where like each choice you make is kind of in that D&D style, like you can kill anybody.
Yeah.
Or you can spare them. Or you can do this quest or not. Or you can pick this skill tree and be this kind of mage or not. I would love to see stuff like that within the Halo universe.
Yeah. And again, there are going to be people that write that off because it's no one direction and the outcomes will all be different. So thus, people say, well, that's not canonical, which I think it's okay to put out games that aren't canonical.
And that's fine. And that's what Halo Mythic is. Screw canon when it comes, if it's fun, it doesn't have to be a part of it.
Yeah, it doesn't have to have a backstory or all these
if
crazy cutscenes.
If literally you're like, this isn't canon, I'm not playing it, if that's your reasoning for not playing a game, that's just weird.
Yeah.
Like if you're so deep involved that it's like, I can't even think of this. This would poison my mind and make me think that this was part of it.
Yeah.
If it's fun and it's within the realm of what could be, I would say go for it. Why not go for that?
Yeah, I think like if you told me like say Spartan Assault or Fireteam Raven was not canonical, that would not stop me from playing it.
No,
like at all.
If it's fun and it can hold my interest, perfect.
So what kind of elements would you want to see out of this?
So I would love to see where, I guess you'd probably have 2 story arcs. You'd probably either have to be within a human or within a covenant. And there would be a campaign, kind of like what you have with D&D and everything. You'd kind of be not on rails, but you'd go through the campaign like you would with kind of any storyline, but it's still open. You know, you can kind of do what you want to do. You can do those quests or not do them. So I think it would be tough because you'd really have to, I think really what it would boil down to is kind of what campaigns you'd write for it. Are you a soldier? Are you a civilian working in this realm to help out the war effort? Are you a Spartan? Are you an elite? Are you a grunt? You know, what are those things? But I would love to see something like that where you can kind of build your own story up and play through it with friends to kind of just create your own story. So yeah, any canon would be out the window. But I think if you can create your own stories within the Halo universe and just allow your imagination to run, I think it'd be cool.
It could have canonical elements. Bring in some areas.
Yeah, and you could bring in staple characters. Like you can bring in already established characters to kind of talk about things. Or yeah, I think what you're kind of going on is you can have a predetermined thing that's already happened and you're just part of it.
Yeah, like say like you're a civilian on the ship leaving Harvest after it was glass. Like because they did stuff like that with the interactive strategy game. Like okay, here's just kind of this hint of what actually happened. Like bring those kind of elements in. Yeah, and I think people would love it.
It's great because that's D&D and Pathfinder are built on that of having an imagination, having a dungeon master, having a guide to help you through these things, but just having fun with it. Like not taking yourself way too serious that it's like, ooh, yeah, those 2 people would never be in that same world at the same time.
They would never meet. That's bad.
Yeah, so it's just like have fun with it and see what you love about like the universe and push it and have fun with your friends and do it. And like, because honestly, with the interactive strategy game, that's what a lot of it was. It was build your own battles. Would these people be on the same battlefield in the same area? Probably not. Yeah. But have fun with it and just experiment and have an imagination.
Basically, whatever situation you wanted to happen in the Halo universe, you can make happen. Yeah. With this game.
Exactly.
So this is the umbrella for all of our spin-off games.
Yeah, it's the umbrella for all of it. So it would still be kind of that turn-by-turn based tactics style game, but you would have so many other like cool just build your own lore elements or learn about the history of these peoples or there's just so much you can really do with it.
Yeah, even it said add those canonical elements in where you if you know a lot about the lore, visit a place and explain the lore of that planet or this species or anything like that or this battle.
Yeah, and elements of like, you know, if you're an Ungoi, like you're going to have a rough time. If you're around stuff. It's the same thing like that Divinity game I was talking about. There's a character you can pick that is a skeleton. And they can wear the face of a human and they're fine.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. If they're not, everyone freaks the fuck out and either tries to attack you or runs away and finds someone to like kill you.
So wear your skin face,
wear your skin
kids.
Face. So it's stuff like that I would love to see, that it's just a role-playing game that kind of really delves you into what elements you love about it and just kind of what people can think of.
Yeah, I like that idea a lot. I think that I wish a lot more Halo fan games would come out so we can get things like this. Now, granted, making games is not easier. And every year it gets fucking harder and harder. But that's just wishful thinking for me because we've had some cool fan games come out or in the works.
Yeah, that are just really cool out there. And I love when you see stuff like that and there is support from studios or developers that are like, yeah, cool. Sounds good.
Go for it. And then you have Microsoft. They're like, we didn't say okay.
Yeah, and it happens. I mean, you're protecting your money, which I get. But I think there needs to be more investment in those type of things. That's why, like I said, I really enjoy Halo Mythic, and I'm really glad stuff like that exists. So you can take an element of a game that you like and apply it to this. So if you want to call it a really advanced reskinning or whatever you want to call it, like I think there needs to be that to, one, bring creativity to the gaming universe. So you're not just stuck with a Halo 4 and 5, which is just like a marginal game.
Yeah.
But you're actually given like this cool creativity on what people want to see and explore and hear, and not necessarily read 45 books.
Yeah, like
to have to build up to that idea on the lore, but they can like experience it in a game or in expanded game lore that's more interactive than passive like reading.
yeah. So I know you mentioned you had kind of a flood horror-esque game, and I have a version of that too that I want to bring to the table. So one of, if not the most requested spin-off games from Halo fans in the franchise is a flood horror game, as we talked about. So for my game, this would be set during the Human Covenant War, and you would play as a Marine. And I don't even want you as an ODST. I want you bottom tier UNSC level. And you're either trapped on a Halo ring or a Forerunner planet for whatever reason, or maybe even High Charity, and you have to fight off the Flood. And you're basically like, I thought a little bit about this. Like the overall plot is you have to stay in this area, and I mean it's a big open area clearly, and survive until evac comes. Now, something else I want in this game is that you would see the true horrors of the Flood. So, with as developed as games are now, this wouldn't be hard. But when someone's transforming into the Flood, especially with all the like new nuances in the engines now, you could actually see them like screaming and slowly transform.
Oh yeah, just like there's like their spine snap and like go back
bones
and everything.
break and their head going back. Like for you, I want you as the player to be like, holy shit, almost like The Thing, like watching one of those transformations happen. And the idea of like again, having to face the fact like, oh shit, I have to kill this person that was my friend. And like, you have to kind of, basically live with that. And if you don't, you will succumb to the Flood and you will die. Yeah. So as I said, I almost want this to bring elements from The Thing. If anyone hasn't seen The Thing from 1982, I think, John Carpenter, one of my favorite horror sci-fi movies of all time. I recommend it. I want to say there was some inspiration from the Flood from that. I could be wrong, but it's a great movie. So for me, some unique elements I want to see from this is, as I had stated, the firsthand horror of like what happens to someone when they're infected by the Flood. Again, maybe even have some terminals where it's talking about like Jenkins or something and what he had to deal with and whatnot. Also, have like wildlife and animals be infected by the Flood, like we saw in the graphic novel. So like all of a sudden you're walking, you think you take out all these Covenant, and then this infected dog or like cat runs up to you, or a fucking bear. Wouldn't that be terrifying? Like a mini boss battle or something? Because I think that's more realistic. They infect everything. We saw that with wars. You saw the wildlife start getting under control about the Flood. So as well as like I want there to be some kind of, and I don't know how this would happen, some strategic thinking in there. So it's like, say like you have a situation like, do I activate these two turrets and leave this one area open and we try to fight this off, or do we activate this trap over here? I think that would be interesting. Kind of like a last defense wave battle.
Okay, so you're kind of taking stuff from like Dead Island, State of Decay, other similar zombie genres that at times have you do wave defense, or like you said, like we can either put fences up here, or I can use my resources to build a turret nest.
Yeah.
Like what do we do?
Yeah, so some small research management like that, and maybe even you see that like you do it like this. You activate these two turrets and try to control this one open area, but instantly that fails. So like some trial and errors with it. Some like real life, like, oh fuck, I should not have done that. Maybe I'll move one of the turrets over here. Stuff like that. Like I think little more, again, strategic thinking like that. And then also, like, and we never get these in Halo, I would love to see at least one stealth-like mission. Like, maybe they have to do a Walking Dead thing. They have to cover themselves in flood guts and just wander through. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, I think there's definitely promise for it there. And I know, like you said, like if you've read any forums, you're seeing everyone has their own idea on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool. I think it adds in, a lot of your traditional zombie game elements of wave defense, because that's what the Flood is. I mean, it's a flood. Yeah. It's a flood of flesh and mess, and that's trying to overtake everything it can. So, can you defend? Can you defend what you can? Can you reach out? Now, would you have elements of like meeting up with other Marines or civilians or ODST or ONI people? Like,
see, I think I was thinking it was like a semi-larger-esque squad.
Okay.
And you're almost in like this small community area. So you have like your hub, and then
Got it.
stuff will just come in. Almost like, what game is it that you basically, I think it is a zombie game that you just build up your area, and I think it's first person, and then like the occasional wave of zombies just comes in, like without warning.
Oh. So you can do stuff. There's 7 days to die, which is one where you can kind of build out a habitat, and every seventh day, a swarm comes. So it's potentially like that. But yeah, there's games out there.
I would want this to be legitimately randomly generated. So all of a sudden you just hear this screech, and it could be a big invasion. It could only be 4 infector forms or anything like that. You know, like just you don't know. Like
that's pretty cool.
Something happens, and it's just like, oh shit, am I prepared for this? So always having to keep on your toes, and maybe even still keeping it again first person shooter. Having a gun, but it's like there's a lot more to do than just use that gun.
Yeah, like you said, with resource management, with like, I'm assuming you have to venture out to like find stuff for your base.
Yeah, maybe occasionally just be like, we need more weapons. We know of, you know, say if we're on High Charity, like this section of High Charity, we know there's a weapons cache. Which, if you've read The Flood or played CE, never go for the weapon caches.
Exactly. Well, yeah, because I love games like that are base builder type stuff, where it's like you're doing a wave defense thing, but it's like, okay, we're still improving the base. Like now we have this area that we can do like stockpiling, and now we have this area that can do this.
Kind of like, I don't know about any of the previous ones. You can do that in Fallout 4.
Yep. Yeah, it's like Fallout 4, very rudimentary, like base type stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, stuff like that. Or like there's another zombie game that's like an 8-bit style that's like They Are Billions. And it's a game where you build up your base and try and keep zombies out. And you can send out like sniper squads and stuff, like take care of them. But eventually you will get overrun because there are billions.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like you start with like small swarms, and then eventually a swarm will break in and kill you. But yeah.
That title is kind of a spoiler there.
I know, it's a shame. But it's a really cool game. So yeah, stuff like that I think would just be a really cool element to keep that Halo-esque aspect into it, but still be like, you have to be on your toes at all times. It's not just like, you know, in 2 hours, here they come.
Yeah, like there's a countdown. But yeah, and I know that that's not the last of it from Flood campaigns from us. You've got something as well.
Yeah, so I know I touched on horror a little bit, just kind of get into the genre of Left 4 Dead Killing Floor-esque, but one that I think would be pretty fun, well, I think would be pretty fun, would be something kind of like either like Outlast or like Alien Isolation, which is basically where you really don't have any equipment. You may just be like a civilian on the planet, or like you're a Marine out of ammo, or you have a small clip or something. And it's much more about like getting these objectives to get out to like an escape pod.
Yeah, you're like an Oni scientist or something.
Yeah, that's like there's one escape pod left. You have to kind of crawl through the ship. You know, do you open this door that causes a loud sound to take the shortcut, or do you crawl through a vent? Like various things where it's all first person, and it's all just like a little bit of jump scare, but just a lot of like heart pounding, like, oh, you got this hall when you turn, and there's a combat form.
Yeah,
you
then
like
you have
sprint.
Yeah.
And
Or
like QTE stuff, and yeah.
it's like, did it see you? And then you turn the corner again, and it's book setting right at you, and you're like, oh shit.
And it's like, what do I do from here? So it'd be kind of cool to either have it procedurally generated, so like the ship always changes around, like it'll have similar elements, but like trying to like do these objectives and get out, which would be pretty cool. And or something like Outlast, which I don't know if you've ever played it.
No.
So you go into this insane asylum as a journalist. So you're carrying a camera that has a battery. So that's a big thing, is that's how you see night vision and whatnot. You keep changing batteries. But something like that, where you have to go through either a place on Earth, or you happen to be working on a ring, or you're wherever you are that you're infected with this flood, whether it's canonical or not, and you have to kind of figure out what the flood are doing, and then also escape, like with that research knowledge.
Yeah. I think it would be even like you talk about you turn the corner. You turn the corner and you're in, like, you see the midst of someone transforming into the flood. Like, scary shit like that. Because I know that Alien Isolation terrified me.
Oh, yeah.
That game was so unique and good.
Yeah, and stuff like that, where it's like the game just kind of predicts stuff for you, and it just always keeps you on your toes. So you get that like one moment of like reprise. You're like, okay, I can think right now, and then you hear like little skitter scatters of like some infection forms. You're like, oh nope, got to keep going.
Or the screech of something out in the distance. Yeah. I keep saying screech a lot. I guess the flood screech, but oh well.
It happens.
I do like that idea. I definitely think that you could get something cool, because even say maybe you're on a small ship with only 5 or 6 people, and then you all split up at the beginning. Like, it doesn't have to be that there are hundreds of flood infection forms coming at you or combat forms. It only takes one to screw you over. So imagine if you're running from 3 or 4.
And you may even shift it, like you said. Maybe instead of, or on top of it being a single player game, you could have multiplayer like Dead by Daylight, which is where you have 4 people have to activate these generators while, a killer is trying to find them and kill them.
Okay.
So this is kind of like, all right, the ship's power's out, we got to restart that, and then we have to get to the escape pods while stuff's going on. And then if someone, gets swarmed, then they become a flood.
Yeah.
And they can kind of like dictate what's going on.
And maybe it kind of almost turns into zombie-esque, then it's like 3 against 1 or
Yeah,
something
exactly.
like that.
Stuff like that. So like your chances at the beginning are really good, so you got to figure that out, and then it starts to obviously dwindle as you longer you're on the ship.
I think there just needs to be this element that 343 needs to show us of like, okay, we need to instill the fear into you that you felt the first time you saw the Flood in Combat Evolved.
And think about how much the Flood is hated until it's taken out of the game. People are like, hey, 4-5, what do you got going on here?
What the fuck, bitch? Where are they
You
at?
just gotta shoot dogs now? So I think people, no matter how much you hated the Flood or like how low ranked the Flood levels are in campaign, that you really want that element of kind of feeling overwhelmed and having them within the storyline and as them as like a constant presence instead of having just random didact stuff pop around.
Yeah, shit like that. I think definitely the Flood will be back in Infinite. This is all but confirmed just because 343 posted that video of them getting sound clips from a pug snorting a bunch. I can't think of literally anything else other than wildlife on Zeta Halo. But by the way, that's my favorite thing to ever see from Infinite so far. Even more so than the trailer. But yeah, no, so coming to a close on this, I have just a few honorable mentions. I don't want to dive into too much. But yeah, so these are just my quick little spin-off ideas. And I actually got this first one. Someone tweeted it recently that with the new Halo book coming out, Oblivion, they said they really wanted an early years Blue Team spin-off game because they're like, all this shit that's happening is so cool. We need something like that. I also think that in the earlier years, I don't think we're ever going to get an ODST 2, or a good one at least, but I want a story about Alpha 9 before all that shit happened in ODST along with New Blood and Bad Blood. And then also, if you're not familiar with the lore yet, because we're not that far in, there are headhunters that are specific Spartan 2s and 3s that are pulled to basically go on suicide missions to take, for whatever reason, but it's usually a unit of 1 or 2. I would love a headhunters
That'd be pretty
game,
sweet.
like a stealthy game
I'll say
for the most part.
almost like a bounty hunter game from Star Wars type thing.
Yeah. Do you play Bounty Hunter? Oh, never mind.
But kind of like that.
Okay. But yeah, so the last thing we want to talk about is what game or 1 or 2 games do we think will actually happen? This wasn't this is what's going to happen, this is what needs to happen to bring the franchise together. This was just our crazy ideas that we thought would be amazing. Like, say, if we saw a fan version of any of the games that we just said, we'd play them instantly. So what do you think will be the game that will for sure happen here soon?
It's really tough to say because most of the spin-offs, like you said, have stayed within that shooter genre altogether. So it's obviously going to be something like that. I think most realistic of today's age of 2019 is a battle royale. We didn't talk about it because it's not really a game that I don't really care to see.
Well, they confirmed that they're not doing any battle royales, at least for now.
For now. Until
but
reception's like, hey, Haley, you want to do a battle royale? They go, JK, we've been doing this for months. And I honestly, what I assume it is a lot of these studios are like, we would never do a battle royale. Got to it too late.
Yeah.
They started production way too late. The game, like battle royales are kind of starting to peter out now. So that's, even if it's confirmed or not confirmed for those type of things, that's the most logical I see happening. Or you're going to see something like Spartan Assault. You're going to see another either mobile game they're going to do or something to tag along that, because I honestly think they're going to try and ride the Infinite train as long as they can by putting out, like, whether it be more content for it or kind of whatever their content calendar is. I think that's going to be the main focus, because if they can't do Infinite, it's done.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, if Infinite makes it, then maybe get some more mobile titles.
You see some more mobile titles, or you see some more branching out on maybe a couple more things. But for the most part, I think you're still just going to try and stay canonical with the games, because if you look at sales thus far, Halo 5 is your best seller as far as Microsoft IP.
Microsoft Xbox exclusives.
Yeah, Xbox exclusives, Halo 5, MCC, and then you've got Forza, Gears, Sea of Thieves, kind of all mixed in there. But those are still leading it. I mean, Halo Wars 2 didn't even appear on that.
Yeah, no.
So those, for the most part, are fanfare. You know, I think Halo Wars OG was like 2-point-something million they sold dollar-wise, and then, I don't know what Wars 2, I didn't have any data on that.
There's not much.
It's not much until you get the full year of it, and you get outside sales. But if not those, you're going to get a Reach or ODST style title that's going to be a first-person Halo shooter that's based in this environment.
I'm going to go off the rails and say that it's going to be a Flood-esque game. I think so. I really do. It's the number one thing that fans have been wanting for years. I think they would be crazy to pass up that opportunity. I think that would be a hot
game.
I think it would be a top seller easily.
I think if anything, it would be just extra content in Infinite. Kind of like zombies is in Call of Duty. I think it would be more like that than anything.
Okay. As I said, if it's not that, say if they do just do kind of the side shit that they did with zombies, then again, kind of a Reach or an ODST. But I really think that it will happen.
I'm going to have to doubt it. I'm going to say it's going to be kind of like a firefight mode. I guarantee that's what it's going to be. If anything, it'll be a horde mode, but just Flood.
I guess only time will tell. I really can't wait to be able to look back on this episode once we do get something.
And
I would
see what
love
we got
to
going. I mean, I'm excited to see what comes out of it. These ideas obviously are more so a lot of the either gamer lore that we both love. So it's kind of like compiling to what we'd love to see from that. Realistically, I mean, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while.
Yeah, because I don't think really anyone expected, I think, Wars to do as well as it did when it originally launched.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to go back to be like, hey, this is kind of our roots. This is kind of what it could have been. And it was like, we don't want that. We want the shooty shoot.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. I mean, they've attempted a couple spinoffs. ODST and Reach are the closest spinoffs that you can just like put into the Halo game. Like if you just Google the Halo game, that's like one of them.
Yeah.
So like there's still spinoffs, but
very mainline
spinoffs. So will we see another mainline like that? Or will we get something that really piques the interest outside of that to bring more players into the Halo realm of games?
Yeah, time will only tell. Again, I'm excited to see what comes from 343 as long as it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, which the track record so far is touch and go. I said I don't hate the spin-off games by any means for the most part. I haven't gone through Wars 2 yet, but I think... I mean, a lot of people like that one. Sales dictate otherwise, but the people who got it loved it. So yeah, this was our first, bonus episode birthed from Patreon. If you are a part of that, you can go on there and you can vote for these bonus episodes that we'll be putting out. And we'll be putting one bonus episode out monthly, and we hope that you guys enjoyed our first one.
Yeah, so be sure if you want to kind of be ahead of the curve with this, sign up for our $5 or more tier. And that'll get you, plenty of other really cool things, access to our notes, game nights that are specifically for our Patreon members, some Discord stuff. So there's a lot that goes into it, but this is just another tier aspect that we've added. It'll also allow you to vote on the next episode, which will be this one for non-Patrons will be November. So they'll be voting on the November one coming in October. So so they'll always be the month of when they vote.
Yeah, and so again, thanks for listening to this episode. This one was actually really fun. This was a lot more freeform. We did have our notes, but it was just fun to really bounce ideas off of each other and basically almost just put mics in front of conversations that we have a lot before we do record.
Yeah.
Kind of, get it behind the curtain of what goes through our head.
Yeah, and just wanted to finish that real too quick with a shout out to some of our also cool Patreons with Mike, Baby Z, Skyjack, and Charles Zitter. So some awesome people that are really helping us along. And if you guys have any questions about that or what we do or anything that goes into the rewards, please let us know. Like we're happy to help out on our Discord or Instagram, Twitter, wherever you can reach us.
Yep. And with that, I'm your host, Jesse Reiners.
And I'm your host, Alex Kendall.
And thank you for tuning in to Finish the Fight, a Halo podcast.
Halo. It's finished.
No, I think we're just getting started.